Good day, everyone. Raif Derrazi here, and this is the first HIV news video of 2025. I'll be covering 10 articles covering topics ranging from rising rates of HIV/AIDS in people over 50, the threat to ending HIV in the US with the new administration, the debate over HIV-positive organ donors, improving neurocognition in people living with HIV as they age, changing the name of HIV, and more. I won't be reading the articles per se, but I will give you a brief summary and sometimes throw in my own opinion and or commentary. A quick thank you to so many of you who have expressed support and love after watching my recent vlog video where I expressed a lot of emotion, literal tears. It really means a lot to me. It always does. So thank you so much as I'm going through this difficult period. A major shout out and thank you for your generous donations in support of the channel, which goes out to Kurt Smith and Ross Gebert 1650. I so appreciate your donations. So thank you so much. All right, moving on to the first article. Number 1, The Advocate. AIDS Memorial Quilt displayed at White House for the first time. The White House in December recently hosted a historic World AIDS Day ceremony showcasing the AIDS Memorial Quilt on the South Lawn for the very first time. Crazy, right? This powerful event, led by President Joe Biden and First Lady Jill Biden, celebrated progress against HIV/AIDS while honoring the lives lost. This quilt was woven with a grief powerful enough to move the world toward unity, acceptance, compassion, and grace, Jill Biden remarked. The quilt, featuring nearly 50,000 panels, served as a moving reminder of over 110,000 lives memorialized. Advocates emphasized continued action, with Daniel Driffin noting, quote, "We boldly know undetectable equals untransmittable," end quote. The event also highlighted the launch of a digital archive of quilt records, preserving stories for future generations. Amid progress, concerns were voiced about sustaining advancements under potential policy changes, but the day reinforced the community's resilience and commitment to equality. I want to speak to that for a moment because there's a lot of uncertainty regarding the new Trump administration and what will happen to funding as well as the ease of access to HIV-related resources. There are so many executive orders being signed every single day, so many things happening, announcements, especially related to funding. And you can go down a veritable rabbit hole of trying to conjecture and figure out what the implications are, who's going to get targeted, who's not, things like that. So it's just something we are seeing play out in real time, and it is alarming. Number 2, South China Morning Post. China promotes faithful relationships for elderly as HIV/AIDS cases rise in over 50s. On World AIDS Day, China's health authorities addressed a troubling rise in HIV infections among older adults, especially men over 50. I'm going to butcher this name. Liu Yufan, deputy director of the Chinese Center for Disease Control's AIDS Prevention Center, highlighted that while overall new cases are declining, sexual transmission remains the primary cause. Authorities urged elderly individuals to lead a, quote, healthy and civilized, end quote, lifestyle and remain faithful to their partners. This call comes as China faces the challenges of a rapidly aging population with over 21% of its citizens now aged 60 or above. Liu emphasized the importance of public awareness, saying, quote, "We must encourage safe practices and faithful relationships to curb the spread of the virus," end quote. I and many advocates are pushing for general HIV awareness campaigns and clinical trials to be inclusive of our older populations. Too many recommendations for testing, etc., are advised with an age cap. Why would we have an age limit? Do people stop having sex at a certain age across the board? The answer is no, they don't. And because older people don't think they're at risk, based on current guidelines, they are increasingly getting surprised with diagnoses and sometimes tragically succumbing to AIDS-related complications due to not being aware of their status nor being on any kind of treatment. And at an older age, health complications can quickly snowball into something life-threatening. Totally unfortunate and totally preventable. I think it's really interesting that this article, the quote from this person, emphasizes safe practices and faithful relationships. Is there an assumption that these diagnoses, HIV transmission is happening among those who are committing adultery? I mean, is that really why? It feels out of touch with reality. I could be wrong. I don't know. That's just stood out to me. Number 3, LGBTQ Nation. Donald Trump had a plan to end HIV by 2030. His re-election may kill that plan. As World AIDS Day highlights global progress in HIV prevention, advocates are raising alarms about potential setbacks under a second Trump administration. While Trump previously launched initiatives like the Ending HIV Epidemic Plan and extended PEPFAR, his track record also includes efforts to dismantle the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare, cut Medicaid, and defund HIV programs critical to prevention and treatment. Republicans' recent push to slash budgets for HIV services, combined with anti-LGBTQ+ rhetoric and conspiracy-driven appointees, could jeopardize the progress made. Jeremiah Johnson of Prep for All voiced concerns asking, will he be the Donald Trump who initiated the Ending the HIV Epidemic initiative, or will he turn away from science, end quote. This uncertain future leaves many advocates urging vigilance and action to protect essential HIV resources and vulnerable communities. Now, this article was written before today's events. Today is Tuesday, the 28th of January. A lot of shit is going down, so this isn't quite current, but I will continue to say that it's not healthy to speculate too much. There are a lot of things happening. There are a lot of moving pieces, a lot of confusion. A lot of people don't even know what to make of what is going on at the moment. But it's not helpful to speculate too much and get too wrapped up in your own anxiety and stress. So I encourage you, and that's a word of advice to myself as well, to not get too caught up, stay grounded, don't let the anxiety take over. But it is good to be aware and to do some research of the kinds of things that Republicans have previously attempted to do regarding legislation and funding for HIV prevention and treatment access, etc. Like, for example, when they tried to, in several states, make it so that health insurance didn't have to cover the cost of PrEP as a prevention, citing religious grounds. I mean, they'll cling to whatever they can to not help people who they think are going to be most affected by HIV, which is the LGBTQ plus population, and therefore these efforts are a de facto way of targeting the LGBTQ plus population. I know HIV affects everybody, and outside of the US, like in sub-Saharan Africa, it's predominantly women and children, but in the US, there is a large cohort that is gay and bisexual men who have sex with men, and targeting these kinds of programs targets those people specifically. That is no accident. With that said, my initial thought was, because President Trump is so focused on nationalist policies, on really doing things that are going to favor the US, bolster the US, and kind of let other countries go to the wayside, America first, I would see a program like PEPFAR being in danger, because PEPFAR is specifically for countries outside of the US. It's the President's Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief, and it provides billions of dollars every year of funding to help countries battle the HIV/AIDS epidemic. And a number of these countries are wholly reliant on that funding to be able to provide their services like HIV testing and treatment and prevention and other services that help support housing and things like that. Now we know that there's a freeze for 90 days for now, and that directly impacts PEPFAR. And so there are countries who are, I imagine, overnight have lost funding to these critical services. It's wild. Anyway, I'm going to keep following that, and I'll keep you up to date as things unfold, which I'm sure they will very quickly. Number 4, the New England Journal of Medicine. Safety of kidney transplantation from donors with HIV. A groundbreaking study has found that kidney transplants from donors with HIV to recipients with HIV are just as safe as transplants from donors without HIV. The research conducted across 26 U.S. centers showed no significant differences in survival rates, graft success, or adverse events between the two groups over 3 years. However, there was a slightly higher risk of HIV breakthrough infection in recipients of HIV-positive kidneys. Dr. Christine Durand, one of the researchers, emphasized, quote, "This study provides critical data to support expanding access to life-saving transplants for people with HIV," end quote. The findings could pave the way for these transplants to move beyond research into regular clinical practice. This topic is relatively new to me, I'll admit. I will be looking into this some more, and hopefully I can host an interview with a woman whom I met last year who has firsthand experience with this and has done tremendous advocacy in this space. And right now she's waiting on some more legal clarity to really understand the implications of some changes that are going on right now. But hopefully I can bring her on soon to discuss this issue. Number 5, Emory News Center. Clinical trial at Emory University reveals twice-yearly injection to be 96% effective in HIV prevention. A recent clinical trial led by Emory University and Grady Health System highlights a major breakthrough in HIV prevention. The study found that a twice-yearly injection of lenacapavir is significantly more effective than daily oral PrEP like Truvada, reducing the risk of HIV infection by 96%. Quote, seeing these high levels of efficacy at almost 100% in an injectable that people only have to take every 6 months is incredible, end quote, says Dr. Colleen Kelly, lead author of the study. This innovation addresses adherence challenges as many people struggle to take daily medication consistently. The trial included diverse participants from populations disproportionately impacted by HIV, emphasizing the need for equitable access. Researchers are hopeful that lenacapavir will be approved for commercial use by 2025, this year, potentially transforming HIV prevention efforts worldwide. This is especially helpful for people who, for one reason or another, may have difficulty sticking to a once-daily pill, whether that is due to housing, insecurity, financial instability, mental health challenges, etc. A twice-annual shot can really make a huge impact. Number 6, HIV.gov. As prevention strategy for sexually transmitted infection rolls out, experts highlight both promise and knowledge gaps. Doxycycline post-exposure prophylaxis is showing promise in reducing bacterial STIs like syphilis and chlamydia, but has had limited success with gonorrhea, according to 2 new studies published in JAMA, Journal of the American Medical Association Internal Medicine. In San Francisco clinics, doxypep cut syphilis and chlamydia rates by about 50% among men who have sex with men and transgender women, while gonorrhea rates rose by 26%. Another California study saw STI rates drop by 79% for chlamydia, 80% for syphilis, and 12% for gonorrhea. Dr. Jeannie Morazzo from the NIAID noted doxypep is proving to be an important intervention in our effort to decrease STI incidence, end quote. However, the rise in gonorrhea and emerging resistance highlight the need for ongoing monitoring and equitable access to this prevention tool. Experts also stress the need for research into its effects on cisgender women and broader STI solutions like vaccines and new antibiotics. And now that I'm single, I do have a prescription of doxypep at home to keep myself more protected as well. I have to say it does give me an extra level of comfort knowing that, after potential exposure, I can take that within 72 hours and still be mindful of getting regularly tested as well. Number 7, the Body Pro. Next steps for improving neurocognition among older people with HIV. More research, continuum enhancements, knowledge hub. A new position paper published in the Lancet HIV highlights the growing need to prevent, detect, and treat neurocognitive decline in people aging with HIV. Developed by the Neuro-HIV and Aging Advocacy Group, it calls for early screening in HIV clinics using culturally sensitive tools and better training for providers in geriatric and cognitive care. Lead author Dr. Lucette A. Cizik emphasized, quote, public awareness of early signs of cognitive impairment is crucial for timely intervention, end quote. The paper also addresses the challenges of managing neurocognition in low-resource settings and advocates for a global knowledge hub to share research and create practical guidelines. As I mentioned previously, HIV over time can have an impact on neurocognition as we age. It's one of the, as it is called, comorbidities of living with HIV. More research needs to be done into how this happens and what we can do to prevent and potentially reverse it. Number 8, again, the Body Pro, substance use disorders associated with lower sustained viral suppression in people with HIV. A new study published in AIDS reveals that substance use, including tobacco, excessive alcohol, and drugs, is linked to lower rates of sustained viral suppression in people living with HIV, even while on antiretroviral therapy. Researchers analyzed data from over 9,400 individuals in South Carolina and found that while 79% achieved sustained viral suppression, substance use significantly reduced this likelihood. Lead author Bue He emphasized, quote, targeted interventions to address substance use are crucial to improving long-term HIV outcomes, end quote. The study highlights the need for integrated care that tackles both substance use and HIV management. Number 9, blog, My Fabulous Disease by Mark S. King. Exposed document links HIV leaders to, quote, betrayal of people with HIV, end quote. In a shocking twist, several prominent HIV advocates have signed an amicus brief in support of Gilead Sciences despite allegations that the company knowingly delayed a safer HIV drug, TAF, to maximize profits on a more harmful predecessor, TDF. This delay, tied to profits, caused immense harm, including kidney damage, broken bones, and thousands of deaths among people living with HIV. Activist Peter Staley called Gilead's actions, quote, a level of evil we have never seen, end quote. While Jeremiah Johnson of Prep for All described the advocates' involvement as, quote, an attack on everything our field is supposed to stand for, end quote. Critics argue this alliance with Big Pharma represents a betrayal of the HIV community, highlighting the deep ties between pharmaceutical funding and advocacy groups. This raises urgent questions about accountability and the integrity of HIV advocacy in the face of corporate influence. And I know that even Peter Staley himself has said before, get your check from Big Pharma. And the reality is, I think a lot of people aren't even aware, is that so many of the news, journalism, publications, organizations, those helping the community, they are mostly funded by Big Pharma. So even organizations that are holding Big Pharma to account, holding them accountable, they're also funded by Big Pharma. So that is just where the largest source of finance is going to come from. It's no accident that they are also doing this because they want to curry favor and they want to have some kind of influence on folks. I myself have done partnerships with Big Pharma. It's the way it is. If you're not getting money from Big Pharma, you're not getting very much money in general. So it's really about like walking that fine line of being true if you're working in news, having journalistic integrity, and yet also not, biting the hand that feeds you. Number 10, pause.com. Is HIV now named, quote, lentivirus HIVgov, end quote? I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. I don't really care because it's obnoxious. In a surprising twist, the virus we know as HIV now has a more formal name, lentivirus HIVgov. Thanks to an updated taxonomy system from the International Committee on Taxonomy of Viruses, ICTV, while scientists can still use, quote, HIV, the new classification provides a clearer structure for naming thousands of viruses identified with modern techniques. However, the change hasn't been warmly received by everyone. Dr. Boguma Tidanji of Emory University called the new names, quote, distractors that serve no one other than the taxonomists, end quote, adding she won't be using lentivirus HIVgov, quote, anytime soon or ever, end quote. ICTV argues the system is akin to how plants and animals have Latin names like Homo sapiens for humans, but many researchers remain skeptical. What do you think? Helpful or overcomplicated? I just think it's humorous. I understand what they're saying. They want to create this Latin name for it. I heard from some folks at the NIH, they're like, we're really unclear about what's going on with this. If we're going to be expected to use this, if people are going to be expected to use this name in published papers, or what's going on. I sense there's a lot of resistance, even in the science and research community, to moving to something like this. Obviously, it's way more wordy and it's way more lengthy and complicated, and HIV has just been established for so long. And with the challenges that we already have in communicating HIV research and information, why add something else to the mix? It's not needed. It doesn't actually provide any real benefit. But I understand if you're a taxonomist that you would feel that it does. I do want to say that I put this script together before the announcement today of the federal freeze on all public loans, grants, and more aid. There is so much uncertainty right now. It's pretty devastating and stressful for many people. Try not to let it get you down. I know it's a lot. It's a lot for me too. I've been on calls all afternoon regarding that and some other things that I'm not at liberty to talk about just yet, but I will be talking about it soon on this channel. There's a lot to cover. There's a lot to go over. There's a lot to figure out and to clarify. And that will be happening in the coming days and the coming weeks. And it is my prerogative and my determination to focus on that, to uncover those things, to get as much information as I can out to you in real time as quickly as possible. That is my promise to you. Links to all these articles can be found in the description box below this video. I encourage you also to sign up for my mailing list. I'm continuing to build up the email database. Don't fret if you've signed up and you haven't received an email from me yet. That's because I haven't sent any yet. I'm building it up, and when I do, I'll probably start out with quarterly, including dates for upcoming conferences, deadlines for applying for scholarships if you're interested, my in-depth thoughts on the state of things, some fun surprises, etc. Just whatever I can pack in there, I will include in that. I'm looking forward to getting to a place where I start mailing those out. And also, if God forbid anything ever happens to YouTube or any of these other social media platforms and I don't have your contact information, it's it. It's gone. It's lost. I've lost everything. So if I can have your email as well in my mailing list, then I will always have a way to reach out to you and let you know where I am and how you can access my content. Oh, and one example of the type of thing I might include in the newsletter is if you're familiar with the HOPE Collaboratory, those of you who have been following my content, I'm the co-chair for the Community Advisory Board. Well, we are actively looking for 2 more CAB members to join. If you are living in the US and you are interested in finding out more, please email me at raifderrazi@gmail.com. And I will have that information in the description box below as well. Be sure to like this video, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you get a notification every time a new video comes out. And please share this with anyone who might find value in this content. Those are the best ways that you can support me and this channel. Until next time, cheers.